Mm. Okay, so welcome everyone to the Cosmic Ascension Waves of Light. I haven't done these, and also the call, Cosmic Ascension Waves of Light. I haven't done these for quite some time, and it just so happens that I'm doing one now, and it wasn't planned. It just seemed to emerge from out of the blue, which is I'm so excited to introduce Brian Tseng. Am I pronouncing that correct? I am.
Yeah, absolutely, you are.
Great. So I have so many questions for you, and I'm so delighted to have you here. And we were talking just now about attacks, and I have to admit that I have been quite down the last few days, maybe perhaps week, because of the attack I'm having at the moment. But that aside, I'm just delighted to have you here. And today's date is the 17th of September 2024. So, Brian, I have lots of questions for you. Um, so I think maybe we could start at the beginning of how we actually connected, which is to do with the full disclosure movement and your conferences. So tell me all about your conferences.
Thank you, Soma Arah. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And yes, many people in our community are under attack, especially, I mean, not that they haven't always been, or we haven't always been, but especially now it seems like there's like a concerted attack on everybody. Everyone seems to be like, I don't know, the song goes, under pressure, right? And a big part of it, as we were discussing earlier, was because we're starting to make those positive waves out there. We're being noticed, and when you get noticed by the other side, what happens? You get under attack, and if they're not attacking you directly, they're going to attack the people around you. You know, it goes from there. At the same time, it seems like we're all being exposed or offered larger and larger opportunities to reach more and more people and have a greater influence by bringing our each one of us has our own particular message and work effort that and love to bring to the table here. And so the 2024 Full Disclosure Now conference was just this last July at St. Pete Beach at the lovely Serrata Beach Resort, Florida, just outside of Tampa, on the Gulf Coast side of Florida, where the water is like bathwater warm. It's so great. I mean, I'm a really thin skin, so being able to go swimming in the water at night under the moonlight, it's just like wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I was only cold when I got out. I needed a towel. That was it.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole premise of the full disclosure movement and the conference this year and coming up next year, 2025, same time and place, July 15th to 18th at the Serrata Beach Resort. We'll have all the details later. Is that in order to achieve our collective Star Trek future, which we've been held back from this whole time, we have to know the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's the full disclosure part of the movement. It's not just the fun ETs and laser beams and flying around through stargates and portals, but also the ritual abuse and harming little people in underground facilities paid for with money stolen from taxpayers all over the world and linked to, Washington, D.C., to the royal families, not just the one, right, that we all know and love in the UK there. Let's call out the Belgians and all them as well. And they're all interlinked to Hollywood, right? To all these islands and ranches and resorts that the other side likes to have. And in naming those names, we're doing it not to relive trauma. I mean, I've had this accusation literally hurled at us saying, why would people want to do a secret soldier, a super soldier or secret space program, Montauk Project, MK Ultra, abuse conference and have disclosure on that? It's just a whole bunch of people getting together to hold hands and relive past traumas. It's like, well, no, we need to name names. Colonel Michael Aquinos are running around out there, getting away with this stuff till now. Where the bases are at, where people are being abused. I mean, if it's an underground facility, it's like protecting the earth in some way and doing good. Okay, fine. Like I'll zip it, But if they're doing anything of the sort that everyone from Fiona Bartnett has been talking about for decades now, and to Princess Diana and her coterie of friends, and all the names, I can go on and on. That's the idea, because we can only vibrate at such a high frequency if if we're living a lie. We can't live at a higher vibration of truth. Truth is higher than lies, and we're still arguing with each other if is the earth round or flat. It's roundish with an inner earth, and it's interdimensional. It's not flat. Maybe there might be planes of existence where the earth is flat and people are seeing that. I won't detract from that, but you know what I mean? And or if ETs exist, much less are here, much less the deals that they've been cutting behind our backs with the negative factions of humanity for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah. There is just so much that has been hidden from us. And I understand people where it is that I understand why they don't believe it, because it is. I mean, it's crazy, unbelievable stuff. The super soldiers and the underground tunnels and the giants and the UFOs and like all of it. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. And yet here I am with my own awareness of the vast majority of it, as you are, and trying to get the message across that we don't live on an earth that we've been lied to about everything on such a mass scale that it is unbelievable. And when you look at the elites, like the royal family and some of the other families, they're all connected. I mean, what's coming to mind right now is the little schoolgirl in America that was doing, you probably have heard of this. She was doing a project at school, and she was researching and studying, and she came across the fact that all of the American presidents are related by blood. I mean, come on, people. That is, if that doesn't send chills down your spine, and you were talking about some of the underground areas, secret areas in America. And I've been shown just how, because just for the viewers, I do channel the Pleiadians, and so I get a lot of information through them. And I don't really trust anything unless it's from them. But I have been shown some really dark spaces underground to do with the secret military areas in America. But one of the questions I had for you, sorry, my mind is kind of just gone blank.
No, you're talking about being shown via your Pleiadian friends these underground bases and the darker spot places of what's going on there. And so you had a question for me.
Yeah, I'm just going to press pause.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we are back. A slight delay there, or pause. So I know that a lot of us are going under having attacks at the moment, some very seriously. And I wanted to ask, do you have any methods for protection?
Absolutely. Number one is we're not meant to live in a spirit of fear. And it's having first that perspective of what's really going on, because a lot of it's fear of the unknown, of getting, sucker punched from dark corners and constantly being harassed and not having the right perspective is then actually opening yourself up to the arrows and the sling darts of the enemy, right? So knowing we're not where that yes, we're living in a world of spiritual warfare, but if you're here and you're understanding that, that means that you're a chosen person, you're a self-chosen person, most likely, and you've got a mission to live, and that should embolden you. Just like realizing the you were talking about, yeah, all this stuff that we're talking about, full disclosure, a lot of people, it's so crazy to them. To me, yeah, the horrible dark stuff, that is crazy, and I don't, I wish I didn't have to deal with that and accept that. But the other wide, vast spectrum that it opens up beyond, like the dinosaurs were here, and then we came from monkeys, like that's just such a stale, boring, like Illuminati derp state
Mhm.
vision of a twisted, inverted, non-reality. So I find all the positive parts refreshing. And so looking to the positive, I I speak with a lot of people in our community who are kind of going through it, right, under attack. And when they are really under it, I will walk them through Ephesians 6:12 to 6:18 in the good book, which is the armor of God. And I walk them through the idea of you put on the helmet of salvation. If you only have one piece of armor you put on, it's your helmet. Okay, you got to protect your head. And spiritually, your helmet of salvation is clear thought and clear mind. And I could go through the whole thing if you like during this interview. If you find that it's helpful, I could go through it right now. But we
Yes,
could say
please
that for
do,
another time.
Brian. Please do.
Okay.
Because I think so many people, and it's not just Joe Blogs down the road, that there are many people getting attacked at the moment. And I think that the more public the person, the more targeted we are and under attack. So I think this is huge at the moment. We're just like, it seems worse than ever, worse than ever.
But then let me give you the counseling that I've been giving to several people who have been in the secret space programs, who have been used as super soldiers. Obviously, everybody's been MK Ultra mind controlled to whatever extent, and some to way more horrific extents than others. So with the armor of God, you've got your helmet of salvation. That's clear mind and clear thought. Because if you're scrambled, imagine if you've got the best battle horse or tank or car or fighter jet in the world and your mind is scrambled, what good does that do? Once you've got your helmet on, the next thing you need, or not the next thing, but there's no particular order here, really. I guess it starts with the helmet. You want to have your breastplate of righteousness. Okay, I guess the next piece of shielding or equipment you would want is your breastplate. The breastplate of righteousness is spiritually when, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, this is what I'm striving for, right? I partake myself, like as I recommend everyone else, strive to have a breastplate of righteousness, where if you conduct yourself in such a manner that's beyond rebuke, you could play it back on the videotapes and feel like, hey, this guy didn't, what, or gal, what, they didn't do anything wrong. Like, what the heck, Then when you got that breastplate on later on, whether you're standing up in a court of law being accused of something or people are speaking behind your back, people are going to like, don't say that about the Solar Bee. That's my nickname, by the way, or call sign, you know, don't say that about him. Like he's a righteous dude. He helped out my grandma. He did medical advocacy back in the day and helped get her a hip surgery. Like, shut your mouth, and blah 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 blah. Like that's you're like impervious. Your heart is covered because you've done right. Okay, and the people in our community or any community where they've done wrong, they don't have that breastplate. You can see that it's toxic. No one will stand up for that person when they burnt a million bridges, right? And that's not going to do you well in on a battlefield to not have a breastplate of righteousness, or breastplate's not going to do you well in real life like that either. Okay. The next thing you want the belt of truth, right? Before going into battle, you got to gird your loins. You know, you can't have your bits, flopping around while you're under attack, and the dragons breathing fire at you, or whatnot. And so the belt of truth, just like we're talking spiritual warfare, belt of truth holds your pants up. Everyone's heard the saying, liar, liar, pants on fire,
Yes.
right? The emperor has no clothes, right? Well, if your pants are falling down on the battlefield, I mean, it's not only is it bad just from a combat situation, it's also like it's a joke, like like look at this fool, right? And so a belt of truth goes along with that breastplate of righteousness. Conducting yourself in a righteous way is always speaking and living in truth. Okay. So that, everyone's like, you can run around the battlefield and your loins are girded, good to go. The next piece of armor or equipment this took me the longest to figure out. It's like, what the heck does this mean? The shoes of the gospel of peace.
Wow.
What is that? Shoes of the gospel of peace.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the world or the battlefield, it's got a lot of thorns and things to stub your toe on or prick your heel on. You need good boots, or to shod your feet and to protect your feet. And the shoes of the gospel of peace is that when you in yourself have a worldview of what the world situation is out there, now you can run about freely, and you're not going to twist your heel and break your leg, falling into some gopher hole that you missed because you were clueless and you didn't understand that that's part of the lay of the land. So when you have the shoes of the gospel of peace, the perspective and understanding of the lay of the land, now it's like when people are under attack, you're like, okay, they're attacking me, but I can take it. And then there's a number of reasons, because I know that if you're being attacked, it means that you're on the side of righteousness and the other side is trying to hold you back in some way for another. Take that as acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the shoes of gospel of peace. They say, lastly, for your armor and equipment, didn't miss anything, as far as defensively, is the shield of faith, right? Because no matter what, no matter how people come at you or what happens in your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you have a shield of faith and deep down in the core of who you are, for me, it's the law of one. If a lot of people ask, well, what do the ETs believe in? I say spiritually, if anything, universal law, primarily the law of one. We all come from source God. We're all connected in the meantime. We all make our ways back. Service to other, much more direct than service to self, of course. But we all make our way back there one day, right? And in our own time. And that's the shield of faith. With that, it's like, come at me with anything. I know it doesn't matter. Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, right? Or whatever dimensionality. And then the only weapon that you is the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, which is the truth. If you have the truth, you can do more than any weapons. Doesn't matter how many weapons that you got.
Yeah, I
right?
can see you're armed up there.
A little bit. That's just like a sampler platter.
Okay.
And it's all legal, of course, and registered. I live in Nevada, where we can have more fun things than we can in California. What they've done to that poor state after 27 wonderful years of my life there. And I'm originally an East Coast boy, American-born Chinese, and there's a whole history there.
Yeah.
But the sword of the Spirit with the truth. I'll give you an example. John Wick. Okay. Yeah. It's like 3 or 4 John Wick movies, and I love them all. And how many people is he just taking out, and they're having shoot at him, and how much blood is he losing, and bruises and bones is he breaking and taking? And at the end of the day, it's like, if he got to talk to the right mobster at the right time, say, "Don't hurt me or my dog," it's like, it would have been like the end, right?
Yeah.
Or you see like the feudal warlords with like armies behind them, and they're ready to fight, and they're meeting in the middle of the battlefield or would be battlefield to parley. And if they speak the right words or the wrong words, speak the wrong words, it's battle. A lot of people are going to die. If they speak the right words for the right reasons in the spirit of truth, and with that comes love, ultimately, right? Sometimes it doesn't always feel that way, but it is always with love. Then, then wow, that's better than 1,000 swords on either side, right? And so that's the advice I give to people is, I've been slandered a lot. If you listen to the people who want to speak badly about me, I'm an Illuminati, CIA, NSA, Draco, reptilian, gray, possessed with alters, who's a bully, and on and on and on. It's like, sure, everyone's been accused of, he's this and she's that, and oh my gosh, and oh my gosh, and oh my gosh. But if you're always speaking truth and you're armored up, it gets really hard for people to come after you. It comes a point where your enemies and your detractors, they start to look like fools. Like, wait a second, that guy helped my grandma get medical care as a medical advocate organizer back in the day. Where the full disclosure movement, he's helping me X, Y, and Z get my testimony out there. And what are you doing? When I asked you for help, you were never there. When last time you asked me for help, I helped you move, broke my back, and you gave me a pizza party. Like what's up with that, right? So yeah, and
Yeah,
and
I
uh,
think, yeah, I think that there is, the spiritual um field, all of it, the UFOs, and my question's coming back now.
oh,
But all the like all of it, from the UFOs to Reiki, to the truthers, to every aspect of the spiritual field, we have been infiltrated. And I do watch some people, and I'll probably never mention their names, and they are very popular, but some people I do watch and I think, oh my God, he or she is definitely a plant,
let me call someone out. I'll that and it's shouldn't be too controversial. I'd say. Okay, we have the issues of there are people, they're real. There's a phenomenon there, but then the message that they're bringing forward is kind of tainted. I'll give you an example. I personally like Bashar, Daryl Anka, the person who's channeling. But at the point where Bashar, through the website, says everyone roll up your sleeves and take the jabbies because the health authorities say so.
did he say that?
Yeah, it's on his website.
Oh my
Unless he's taken
God,
it
I
down, and
didn't
I can and
know.
I confirm that myself.
Wow,
And
I
then
didn't
and then
know.
my friend
That is,
Antonio,
I'm
uh,
shocked. I'm
yeah,
really
and
shocked.
yeah, and Antonio Attillo, friend of mine who is also in our conference and is part of the Friends of Erica Summers and Womb and the Stars. He did a guided channeling session that basically were related to his higher self about Bashar, and revealed the deal with Bashar is that he's in an authoritative way channeling a lot of good information, but then with a hidden agenda. And that hidden agenda you have to take with the grain. That's what you have to watch out for. And so there's a lot of false light there. And I'll call him out to say, hey, unless you want to retract recommending people take a bio cocktail that killed my dad last November. And three friends in their 40s who were perfectly healthy who lived in San Francisco, where I used to live. That's how I know him. One person here in his 50s was a barber. I can name more and more, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I'm not a big fan of the scamdemic, and that's part of why I got out of being a medical advocate, is that a lot of the hospitals that I helped to advocate for and maintain back in the California area primarily, in the earlier 2000s to 2012 or so, when the scamdemic kicked in, became death centers.
Yes. So I, I'm shocked at that, because I follow very few people, very few other channelers, but Bashar and Cryon, and Blossom. I also follow Blossom Goodchild. Those are the three kind of people I do follow. I'm very surprised at Bashar, because I know that the Pleiadians would never say that.
Right.
So I'm very
Well,
surprised.
he's not. Well, Bashar's not a Palladian. He speaks on behalf of the Sasani. That's
Oh,
a gray human hybrid, or at least one grouping of the Sasani. I don't even want to say he speaks for the Sasani. I'm sorry. He speaks for a faction. Okay, claiming to be the Sasani, as far as I know. I'll name someone else, Sad Guru. He also pushed the jabs, and now he got a stroke. He's in the hospital.
yeah.
Okay, and he put out a lot of false light. So if you put out a lot of good stuff, live, love, eat, love, pray, whatever, great. But then he put out stuff like, hey, yeah, World Health Organization, like I'm down with Klaus Schwab, all that stuff with the WEF and
And also
jabs,
the
same thing.
Dalai Lama as well.
Oh, Dalai Lama, don't get me started there. You have to understand that he's a Bon animist where they do human sacrifice. Like him telling that kid, suck my tongue, that's
I
just
know.
the beginning of it. That's the start of it. And I've known that for years. And you understand when people are running around with the Queen and Obama and this whole cast of character, and they can do no wrong. And it's kind of like he's like, and I love Tibet, but that doesn't mean I have to love the Dalai Lama. Okay, he's kind of like the yogis with like 40 Rolls Royces. Okay, and then he's this whatever, and then no, yeah, that's a huge no-pers for me. And so it's all these idols have clay feet that we've been presented all along. Mother Teresa's in there. He was one of the biggest human traffickers ever through the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And part of it is I name the names, and I am I it's been quoted that I'm no shrinking violet. So
Well done.
yeah,
Well
and
done.
then in terms of the attacks, this is where part of it is I always say to those my enemies, or those who would be my enemy, is any weapons of evil formed against me shall not prevail. If I should be struck down for a good reason, that's one thing. But any weapon of evil against me, in fact, for karma, not dharma, good karma's dharma, right? But for negative karma, it's like the law of three times, or seven, or 10, or even more. It's going to boomerang and backfire back on them.
No.
And so I always appeal to them, hey, here's a chance to come out, say where the bases are, free the kids, release the documents, support the whistleblowers,
Yeah.
things like that to help undo some of what you've done and help undo your karma.
So it wasn't so much a question, although I'm trying to form one from it. But when you were talking, I'm kind of jumping back to my previous thoughts. So when you were talking about the UFO field, what always comes to mind about the UFO field is that they're all, I think they're wonderful. I think it has its place. But I always feel that they are in um in awe of the UFOs and the craft and all the wonderful stuff, but they don't really acknowledge or accept, or perhaps they're unable um to be in a place where they accept, or the I mean, like Stephen Greer, for
So
example.
there's two currents.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll come back to Dr. Greer.
Yeah.
There's the current of for so long in the ufology community. Over the years, so many of the truth seekers and the brightest lights have been silenced and neutralized and killed off in many times over and over, that a lot of the more militant vanguard revolutionary elements have been pared back, and it's taken time for that to recover, unfortunately, but we are recovering. And dedication, tribute, and an honor to those people. Okay, and the many are unnamed still. And then there's so there's that field has been infiltrated, and in that infiltration, um,
I
it's
think
really
that's
held as
massive. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Brian, but I think
it's
that
massive.
it's huge. I mean, yeah. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so for example, an organization like MUFON, which is wonderful and getting all these people all over. Well, what happens if people within it they get access to the databases and they start tracking down who's got the most coherent stuff, and now they can target those people and eliminate them or induct them into their programs. And you were trying to call it an abduction or a sighting, which they can tell. Oh, it sounds like this person was abducted. Now they're on our radar because they're probably a starseed. We want to know what program they're in, and maybe we can shoot down the craft coming to visit them and get some new technology. Oh, goody,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, so um, where is it going with that in terms of
So you were
you
saying
were
the currents,
yeah.
there's two different
Oh,
currents.
yeah, yes, and so that that ufology movement where they've killed off a lot of the brightest lights, and then they've inserted their own messaging. And the messaging goes along the lines of, sure, UFOs are real. It's some kind of phenomenon. Forever and ever, we're going to go from UFO to UAP to extraterrestrial to non-human intelligence, and we'll slow drip stuff, you know, that's good with guys like Dr. Greer, and he'll have release excellent information, but then they might threaten him. And so I'm not too critical of Dr. Greer as an individual
Yeah.
to say, if you don't put in this message at the end of your Pentagon press briefing, okay, with Dan Brush or David Grush, and say that when people ask, what do you think? You have to say there are no bad ETs.
Yeah.
We're the bad ETs.
Yeah.
Okay. A certain new age streaming service executive producer tried to tell our good friend Johnny Enoch they wanted to pay him more money to be part of that streaming service and do more programming with them, but he'd have to do things for them from time to time. Johnny said, "Oh yeah, what kind of things?" Oh, they said to him. He said, this guy's executive producer apparently said to him, I take Johnny on his word, said to him, uh, for example, you have to insert the message that someday humanity will have to give up our sovereignty. And Johnny said, F no, F you. I'm not saying that.
That is
Okay.
horrendous.
Well, you have to understand where it's coming from. And
Yeah,
this is where, just like in the ufology and the new age streaming, it's just like coming out of Hollywood and out of Washington, D.C., or out of the Royals. It's the same messaging, the same Taylor Swift psyop messaging.
yeah,
Taylor Swift is not a psyop, that sort of thing,
yeah,
where they're just pushing the same messages. And it's so insidious because anyone on the face of it can be called out as a joke for what it is, but they all mutually support each other. And then all of a sudden you're buying into this consumerist shopping mall world. Okay. And their message with the UFOs has consistently been to co-opt the ufology movement has been, we're always going to need more scientific proof, more scientific evidence, more high resolution video. Now you've got to do it in ultraviolet with a full spectrum analysis and infrared on top of that. Okay. Right. I mean, that's like they've got the standard where it's like always moving the goalpost,
yeah,
essentially. And it was kind of funny because I was at Contact in the Desert, not just this year, but last year. And I remember it looked like the MUFON table. It's like, people are talking over here at secret space programs, and people are ET contactees who've been up in the craft, and, they've been shown through remote viewing or astral projection, the home worlds of like their starseed lineage. And then you got the MUFON people over here, and they're like arguing with people about like how it's not scientific enough and they don't have good enough proof. And it's like, man, this table, and it's like everyone else is like, the energy is so high. It's like over here, it's like there's like hostility and aggression. It's like, okay, I'm gonna stay away from that table. And there's a lot of people in MUFON I love. There's a ton. I'm gonna say it right now. So, it's nothing personal. Okay, just wanted everyone to say that. Don't that Solar B hates MUFON. No. Like, no, there's a lot of people. I grew up loving and respecting people in MUFON, learning off of them and their work and the thousands and thousands of reports and all the hours and all the threats and crap that they've been under. So I respect that. But I don't like seeing co-opted groups. And I think that that does need to be sorted out. I will be critical supportive in that way. The other thing that we're dealing with is the bigger, deeper, more fundamental problem is consciousness density frequency barrier. The gap that people are butting their heads into of third density into fourth and fifth density, where third density is kind of like that monkey soup world where we got to get up and go to work to pay the rent, to take care of our kids,
The 9 to 5.
send them to school. The 9 to 5, that how can the 9 to 5 mind accept ETs and interdimensionality and reincarnation and past lives and contracts, soul contracts and bonds and karmic debt, right? Going from that narrow spectrum to woo, angels and demons and ETs and good and bad and inner earth and Nephilim giants.
Yeah.
Oh my.
And it's all such a distraction. The 9 to 5 and the money system and paying tax and having to pay bills and all of that is just such a huge distraction from the reality of the higher dimensions and realities and our own innate intuitive abilities and what we can really do as human beings. It's like the whole thing is every system is rigged, especially the money. And I mean, they can print money, so that brings the question, why are we working why are we working our asses off for it?
And that realization, right, that exact realization right there makes people's heads pop.
Yeah.
It's the funny meme is the person in like the Joker Batman outfit. He's like dressing up like the Joker. It's like me getting ready for work at 5 a.m., my 9 to 5, while a TikToker gal makes $60,000 a month selling her farts in a jar.
I know.
Exactly. And so when there's that cognitive dissonance, and when you overcome that barrier, often at first comes anger before acceptance, right?
Yeah.
And there's definitely that. And then there's also maybe not a lack of imagination, but because of the Orwellian way in which our language and our worldview of what is real and what isn't and what is possible and everything that according to them is not, right? You're trapped in the prison of your own making. And then that's the whole leash harvesting soul trap thing that they've got going that we're breaking out of, which is the ascension, going from third density consciousness. And I'm not talking just third density. There's lower third, middle third, higher third, through hopefully lower fourth, middle fourth, higher to lower fifth, higher mid, right? And then people may ask, what is that? I could describe that too if you like.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So the lower third density, so I just go back to the law of one. If we're going to go just to make it put in our human minds, how do we get from 0 back to 1? Okay. And let's say that density consciousness 1, lower density is mud and dirt, slime, grime. Middle density is like rocks, okay, and like okay dirt that like soil that things can live in. And then like higher density with like crystals, holding like a higher levels of consciousness, transcending the dirt and the muck and the grime. First density. Second density, and all of this is like through like Dolores Cannon and Ashley Dean and Rudolf Steiner and Edgar Casey. I stand on the shoulders of giants and giantesses, right? And so, and I didn't make this all up, which is even more refreshing. I'm just giving it to you the best as I can. as a full disclosure movement organizer so that you have the situation report and can act accordingly.
Thank you.
The second density consciousness, lower, is like nasty insects and creepy crawlies and germs and bacteria, nasty stuff. Okay, middle density is like your run-of-the-mill insects and getting into like wildlife and creatures. And then your higher density stuff is like, dolphins and whales, where like they're animals, right? But really, are they, right? They're that elevated spiritually. And then many would argue that actually be spiritually, they're beyond that density level. It's just at this level, we're only perceiving them at third density level as like, oh, they're just dolphins and whales, right? Not like, they're guardians of stargates and portals in our oceans and help heal the earth. And they're all telepathically linked and they come from Sirius and Vega, right? And the ETs visit them as much as they visit us, right? Who knows? So that's higher second density animal level consciousness, as we know. Lower third is like human level consciousness, but that's where like we're rapey, murdery, steely, takey. Okay. Versus like your run-of-the-mill middle of the road consciousness, like, oh, he's a decent Joe, that's a decent lady. Okay. To higher third density consciousness is like we're, as humanity, we're starting to become more telepathic and empathic first, emotionally from the heart, and then telepathic and starting to vibe with each other, starting more as a group mind. That's now your higher third density, as I describe it. Lower fourth density is like, yeah, you're telepathic, but like you use that to like take advantage of people at nightclubs and in the casino, right? Or in a court. Middle fourth density would be like you're telepathic and you're kind of, more gray, good or evil, right? Higher fourth is you're telepathic and starting to be group mind and empathic and loving, right? And then now fifth density is like the group mind levels of the lower to the higher. And then above that fifth, like sixth density is like group minds and timelines split around universes. And then seventh density, you've got all of that probably into interdimensionality. And, once you're hitting like seventh density and up, that's like godlike levels, right? Compared to us. I mean, not that sixth density already isn't approaching that, but seventh in density above. And apparently, as humanity and we all ascend, we're at a time when Earth is ascending from third to fourth, fifth density consciousness, because yes, she is conscious. According to Audrey Walters, her Earth's real name, her chosen name, she's a celestial being. We all have personalities and consciousness and soul portions of us. Her chosen name is Ishtar. And the son, he likes to be called either Steve or Dan. And it sounds really silly, but it makes a lot of sense because a lot of these ETs, I'm sure you know Soma. If you ask them, what's your name? They'll be like, you can't say my name in English or whatever language of Earth. It's not going to make any sense. Call me Joe. Literally. Call me Harvey. Like, you like that? And that's what Harvey the Rabbit and Dr. Courtney Brown at the Farsight Institute, he has a contact named Harvey. And yeah, it's a joke. And it's a funny joke. And that's sure. Why not? Why not use that handle? Yeah. So, as the Earth is ascending from third to fourth and fifth density, humanity, her primary species on her surface at least, is likewise, and she's already ascended, but time's a funny thing apparently. We're humanity, we're in the threshold of ascending from third through fourth, because you probably don't want to be in fourth density for long. Really, you want to go from third to fourth as a way station into fifth density consciousness of being, and that's where we are now. And the baddies, why they're targeting all of us, is they're trying to keep us all on a lower timeline and keep us, humanity, from ascending from third to fourth, fifth density consciousness. They want to keep us at third density consciousness. That's a whole transhumanism agenda. And you will notice that they never, ever, 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 ever talk about the soul. People having souls in the transhumanism agenda. It's always out of consciousness that you can upload. I want to point that out. There's a reason for that. And so the disclosure movement is using the truth of everything and gathering the testimonies and the people materially and helping make sure we're all supported and living together and helping each other out. We're going to lose our apartments and getting employed by each other, giving each other jobs and getting each other interviews and presentations and helping on each other's books. And that's what a higher timeline is.
Yeah.
That's what we're
United.
manifesting. United.
United. Yeah.
But united in principle. This is then because I've been running in a lot of disagreements in the community, and people are like, well, why can't we all just get along? We're all survivors. We're all experiencers, or at the very least, we all want a Star Trek future, whether or not we know if we're in a program or this or that. Does it really matter? Like, we're living here on this planet, right? Or we're conscious, we have souls, we care. And yeah, I was gonna say,
Wouldn't you?
yeah, people, yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't you?
I know what it is.
Okay, go on, Brian.
So just because we're all, let's say, for the sake of argument, experiencers, doesn't mean we're all automatically on the same side. It means we all should be automatically on the same side, but it doesn't mean that we're all capable or all in that moment working together in the same direction in the benefit of the movement. If someone sees the movement as a way to make money or get laid or fame and fortune, and they're an experiencer, but their main thing is fame and fortune, and they're going to step on the heads of the fellow testimonial people, testifiers, to get ahead. Should people in the movement be like, hey, come on up to the forefront, guy? You've got over all the other people who are not doing that? And I would say no. And there are people who are, well, but I'm a fan of this person. I love this person. You should love them too. You're a full disclosure movement organizer. They should be at your conference. It's like, you know what? I've got other people to put on my stage who aren't.
Yeah,
right.
I know. And but it goes back to like, I just see it as one big huge war, spiritual war, since the time of the downfall of Atlantis. And we've got all these systems on Earth that are run by negative ET energy. And they have their own agenda. And we just seem to be in a constant battle. And it, like, when is it going to end? I'm just so fed up at the moment of this constant targeting.
Well, okay, let me give you the perspective here. This is a very special place, the Earth. It's a prison. It's a battleground. It's a playground. Some people, it could be the Garden of Eden. But that, for some people, sure. And it's meant to be that way. So, there's a lot of places in the universe out there, apparently, right? And I can say, oh, I've seen them. I know maybe in dream states I've probably seen them. And sure, I've done my psychedelic journeys enough in my youth, to know that, yeah, the other realms exist. Time, space, it's an illusion, right? We're all connected. Everyone comes to the same conclusions over and over on those journeys. There's a reason why, people, right? And at the other comforting thing, though, is this is a place that allows us to speed up our evolution very rapidly spiritually. And in fact, we probably competed to get here to live in the shit show.
Yeah.
Right. And so on the one hand, we're sick of it at this density level consciousness, but I love using the example of people doing quantum hypnosis sessions. And they're like reliving. There's one example I remember reading about. I'm just paraphrasing it. So if I get the exact example wrong, sorry, folks. But you get my point. It's like a person was like in a car accident, and they were, part of how they got in the car accident was like they were drunk or they were depressed and they didn't want to be there in this life. And they got in this car accident, they were horribly mangled. And now they're like near death experience and their soul is on the other side. Okay. And there's these beings, what to call it? There are these beings who are like willing to help this person move on away from that damaged body on the operating table after the car crash. Okay. And the person's higher self is saying to those beings, What are you doing? Put me back in my mangled body down there. I have a soul contract to fulfill. I didn't come this far in this incarnation for you to take me out of the game now.
Yeah.
And that's like, people are like, on this side of the day, I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get put in that mangled body after I already wanted to leave this life, you know? But then the spiritual warfare thing and the higher level thing, like that person gets put back in their body, and yeah, it's horrible and painful, and they're in for a good year and a half or whatever of rehab, and they're always going to walk with a limp. But then they meet like the love of their life and have 5 kids with like the nurse who rehabbed them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and would they give that up if you asked them after the
No,
fact?
no,
No, no,
no. It's
no.
there's a couple of experiences I'd like to share with you. Just and I'll probably leave out details and go through them very quickly. But one of them, are you okay for time?
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted myself. I said I was just closing out some tabs, so I stopped getting so many beeps and boops during the interview. I'm great on time. Thank you.
Shall we have, are you on the phone? Shall we have a break?
No, I'm enjoying this interview. I'm great.
Okay.
I'm just muting. I'm muting myself so I can drink my orange juice and you don't hear my Slurpee sounds in the background while you
Oh,
speak.
okay. I thought you were on the phone. I'm sorry, Brian. My mistake.
No, 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 no. You're fine.
Okay. So there's two major experiences I had as a child. One, I was 8 years old, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm going to share it and for you and the audience as well, for those people listening, because they were so profound and such life-changing experiences. So the first I had when I was 8, and I had a lot of I had a very difficult, challenging childhood. And I had this guy lying on top of me when I was 8, and I was very undernourished and underfed and skinny. I was a skinny little thing. I was tiny. And so I had a man lying on top of me when I was 8 who was, in his mind, he was about to do some very bad things. And I could see that. I could see I could see what he was thinking. So I know anyway, I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe because I was so small. And he was a big guy, a big fat guy, and he stunk of whiskey. And I left my body and connected to the Pleiadians, or they connected to me. And I didn't know who they were at the time. I just knew that they were extremely loving and of a high frequency. And I was up there somewhere, probably on a ship. And it only lasted a few minutes, and then I came back, and I could actually see my brother in the hallway, although I was in the bedroom. I could see him coming down the hallway, and I could see my mum following him. And then he came into the room and he dragged him off me. And then my mum started actually attacking my brother because she hadn't realized what had gone on, because she didn't see that part of it. But that was one experience I had as a child, and I didn't realize it was the Pleiadians at the time, not for many years after. And then the other experience I had was when I was 12, and I'd been abused from I found out in my later years that I'd been abused from the time I was in the cot, which ties into the being targeted from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, due to being a starseed and who we get targeted because of who we are on the soul level. So that I can place those pieces together, to do with the abuse as a child, because it was many different men who didn't know each other coming at me from all different angles. It was my mum's boyfriend, it was my stepfather, it was my friend's dad, it was the neighbor down the road, it was, all different.
You're there's like a moth to the flame.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah,
You're
very,
like a burning beacon of
yeah,
light, and you're bright, and like
yeah,
all the darkness is just
yeah,
like,
yeah, it's all
yep,
there, all of it,
yep.
the sexual abuse, the rape. It was also my cousin who raped me when I was 12. Um, and I got to the point, my mum was also an alcoholic, and we grew up in extreme poverty in Hackney in London. Just a horrendous place, it's like the Bronx, or it was back then. And I got to the
Hell's
point,
Kitchen.
yes, exactly, really Hell's Kitchen. And there's this little kid growing up in it who's a starseed, and it's no wonder I was so targeted.
That's rough. Yeah, yeah.
So it was very rough, but I pull such positivity out of the experiences I had, because they gave me such a deep, profound strength and will of I will not back down. But anyway, the second experience I had was I was 12 and I'd gone through a lot of abuse and I just wanted out. I was done. I was seriously
Done.
done. I wanted out. I was
Yeah.
leaving. And I knew that I could take myself somehow at the age of 12. I knew that I could consciously direct myself out of my body. Don't ask me how I knew, but I knew I could do it. And I did. So I'd gone from being um, sobbing my eyes out, I'd gone from being extremely distressed emotionally. And then I had this experience, and when I came back, I was blissful, just
Hmm.
totally blissful for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then it ebbed away. But I'm so grateful now for those experiences, because it really, like, it taught me such a like I wouldn't be. It put me on my path. It put me on the path that I am, and I've been able to recognize. Um, th yes, those situations were hugely traumatic, but it put me on the spiritual path, and it really brought something very valuable to me, several aspects.
It's made you who you are today in part.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
didn't have to be that rough, but as rough as it is, this is what I tell everybody. Because in these programs, oh boy, like the testimonies are horrible, horrible. Um, and I'm going to continue talking as I just let my buddy know. This is John Whitberg, actually, who is an amazing friend, and we said we're going to speak today. I just want to let him know
Will I
that I'm
pause the
in an
video?
interview.
Will I pause the record?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, right. Yeah. So where were we on that? So we are
I
talking about. Oh yeah. The having been through it, the rougher the stuff that you've been through, the harder the price that you've paid, the greater the spiritual capital and reward, even though it may not feel that way at the time. So don't get me wrong, but ultimately that's the
Yeah.
truth of it, is that if you suffered, at you're going to also be rewarded. And
Mm.
so I hope that that's some recompense, if at all. And then the other thing I also say to everybody is, per Dolores Cannon citing this and other people, Raymond Moody, we've lived many lives, done many things, had many things done to us. We've done many things to other people. We've probably been there, done that to everything that's been done to us. We've probably in other incarnations, if not this one, done similar stuff to other people.
Yeah.
And so it's if that's for any consolation, and that's why when people ask me, "Hey Brian, were you in the programs or not?" I say, well, a bunch of people seem to remember me and tell me I was, but I don't have any zero recollection of anything. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I was in the programs or not, if I was abused or not, because like I said in other lives, the whole point is we need to learn from all this stuff and ascend.
Yeah.
And then with that perspective, it's like, hey, if I'm targeted, no matter what they do to me, I'll be rewarded on the other side. This life is just so short. It's a puff of steam. And meanwhile, let's do our job, and at the end of it, look back and be like, I'm glad. I could have maybe some stuff I would have done different, but overall,
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how I'm feeling at the moment. It really doesn't matter. And if they do take me out, there'll be 100 other people to take my place. So, and I was even thinking today, you know, if they do take me out, because I had a message recently about that,
Hmm.
um, which I haven't shared before and wasn't going to, but I did have that message for myself recently. And you know what, Brian, it doesn't even matter. Like really, I'm on such a level that so what? You know, there'll be a
That's
hundred
where you
other
want to
people.
be. That's
Yeah,
a higher timeline right there.
yeah,
The higher timeline is where you're like,
yeah,
whatever, it don't phase me. They
yeah,
can threaten me and threaten him and her and him and him. After a while, they're making so many threats, it's like they're self-isolated themselves.
yeah,
They've got no clue. It's like that naked emperor running around. I'm gonna get you and you and you. Naked, no, you're not.
yeah. And I was even thinking today that if they do, I know where I'm going. And in that place, I will be even um more powerful than I am now, you know,
They
tremendously.
understand that. The occultists understand that. They don't. Do they want Obi-Wan running around with a little lightsaber, or do they want him as part of the Force and the oneness, like moving things everywhere?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been talking for a while and I love your energy. I love who you are. I love what you're doing. Um, and I'm very much looking forward to doing many more interviews with you and chats. I don't like calling them interviews because I like to talk to people and get to know them. Um, which is what today was about, and it just kind of fell into place. And I would I'm very much looking forward to coming over and speaking at your event um in July in Florida. Um so that just thrills me, like fills me up with such good energy. And
I'm gonna add. I have permission to add you to the website and start posting all over.
yeah,
Soma Arah 2025.
yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you, Brian. What a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be able to speak at one of your events. I'm just thrilled, thrilled. And I will get to Florida somehow.
Yes, that's the main thing. We'll get you to Florida.
Yeah.
The 99% quartz white sand beaches, St. Pete
Oh,
Beach
goodness. Yeah.
it's amazing. Miles Johnston coming over from the UK. He loved it. He's coming back as well.
Yes, I know Miles. I've done some interviews with him.
Good.
He's a
Yeah.
great guy.
Please
And
tell him I said hello.
okay, I
Yeah.
will. And I'm going to bring my partner, DM, um, to Florida with me. So we
Yes, awesome.
yeah, I know. We have something else lined up in the pipeline in Florida. So we're just kind of waiting for that to manifest, which will be more of a long-term thing in Florida.
Oh, and
And
I know plenty of people now in Florida to connect you with who are part of Starseed community.
oh wow.
Yes, you're doing amazing work, healing centers, CE5 collective meditation groups, healing modalities. That was another thing I wanted to recommend to people. You're asking like targeted individuals and stuff. And actually, I'm going to share this interview around, and as this is going to be the interview I'm going to share with all my friends who are in our community and they're asking, hey, what do I do? What do I do? And all that. This is what I recommend to
Yeah,
everyone. I want to keep it objective. It's not like I'm singling people out. This is the advice I give to everyone, like, because I try to take it myself, right? Um, we have such an amazing broad community of remote viewers, psychic sensitives, people who are in touch with their higher self, and amazing guides and positive benevolent service to other ETs who want us on the higher timeline. Make use of that. We are no longer the black sheep, each in our own little silo of our own little family and our own town, spread out all over the place, lost in the sauce. Now, all at our fingertips, we can find everyone we want out there on the dumpster fire platform that's Facebook with all the censorship and the shadow banning.
yeah,
My 5,000 contacts, that's not enough. Like I'm making a point. I've got some personal friends, some in the sword collector community, and some other interests, but then the disclosure movement, like if you're someone who in somehow, some way is advancing us towards our Star Trek future, I want to be your friend. 5,000 slots ain't enough.
mm, yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And And it's so hard to reach people on Facebook because of such censoring. I mean, my posts at the moment, practically no one sees them. And
It's
it's gone
crazy.
down
It's
since
wild.
dramatically.
I want to speak to that,
Mm,
especially with the US election season approaching that's coming November.
mm.
Okay. The negative timelines are the one where the Hillary folks win. Okay. I've been told by many a super soldier in these time travel projects. In 2016, that timeline and all the timelines where Hillary wins, they're bad. Those
Yeah,
are the timelines where we get nuclear war, zombie apocalypse, biological outbreak, all that stuff. Those are in the Hillary timelines. And so they seem that they're putting a last ditch effort to have their puppet Kamala win. Yeah, I know politics people, I'm sorry. Not that I'm a diehard for the orange guy. Right now at this time and space, the people behind the orange guy versus the people immediately behind Kamala, whatever, I'll go this way in a heart.
yeah,
Call me, oh, I'm buying into the delusion of left versus right. Well, in the meantime, I'll throw conferences. I'm going to organize, we'll support the community. I'm going to work with everybody, do as many interviews as I can.
mm,
And fine, I'll check a box come November. Is that okay? If not, tough shit. you know,
yeah,
like, yeah, if they're so stuck on the bad orange man, they owe him rent.
yeah. And he's working with the Galactics as Putin.
That's
Yeah,
that's
he is.
what's
I
yeah,
know he is. Like I've
yeah.
had
And
some.
and that's not even and Putin. That's not even the same Putin. That
I
Putin got
know.
swapped out around
I know.
2012 or
Yeah,
11. He went from
yeah.
evil KGB killer Putin to like Winnie the Pooh teddy bear Putin riding a horse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I have one last question for you, and I
yeah.
want
And we're in no rush. We're in no rush. We're in no rush. Go ahead.
to.
Go ahead.
Um, I um I have another appointment at 8, so I have to cut it short, and I don't want to.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't want to at
Okay.
all. Um,
Yeah,
but so I'm very much looking forward to doing more of these with you as soon as possible. Um,
absolutely.
but a question I always like to ask people at the end is, um, do you have a positive? Can you share something positive with the audience?
Oh
It could
yeah,
be anything. It could be a time to come or um, anything positive to share.
yeah. So I'll give the most realistic and positive overview here. Is that again the third density world, things are going to get rocky and we're going to get shaken up like ants in a jar a bit. So, be prepared, but don't live in fear. Have a higher perspective and know that as we're being targeted or whatever, also you should also look around and be grateful because you're probably going to realize you're seeing all these opportunities opening up that didn't exist before. And don't get caught in the targeted traps. Focus on the positive opportunities and where you're going to be in the next days and months and years to come are going to be light years ahead of where we are. And so, be of good cheer, comrades.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much, Brian. Will you
Pleasure.
please send me your bio and all your links, and I will put it into the description boxes and I will share it everywhere that I can. Um, yeah,
Yeah. And the last thing I'd say is please check out fulldisclosuremovement.org. That's a conference website with highlights and a live stream recording for this last year and all the information and details for next year, including who will be presenting on the galactic stage.
thank you so much, Brian. Lots and lots of love to you and your family. And I shall see you soon.
We'll talk later. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. I take my hat off to you. I don't have one,
Top,
but
sorry, top hat tip.
yes.